RFK, the head of HHS, has been on a crusade since coming into this position against all vaccines. As we know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a very staunch anti vaxxer. He is seemingly anti medicine as well, which is rich because he looks like shit. He looks terrible. If I were an alien and I came to this planet for the first time and you showed me pictures of Robert F. Kennedy and Joe Biden side by side, I would think that RFK is older. He looks unhealthier. Why is his skin this color? Why is his face so leathery? It's because, one, he doesn't believe in sunscreen. Two, it's probably all of the drugs that he's taking or the alleged performance enhancing drugs that he's taken to maintain this physique and his strength at his age. But he was really surprisingly grilled by both Republican and Democratic senators. The Republican lambasting kind of falls on deaf ears. It's all really performative because all of the Republicans confirmed him for this position, including Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who is a doctor.
Recent shakeups at CDC. These changes were absolutely necessary adjustments to restore the agency to its role as the world's gold standard public health agency with the central mission of protecting Americans from infectious disease. CDC failed that responsibility miserably during COVID when its disastrous and nonsensical policies destroyed small businesses, violated civil liberties, closed our schools, caused generational damage in doing so, massed infants with no science, and heightened economic inequality. And yet all those oppressive and unscientific...
I have to interject here. All of this is the Republicans' fault. The amount of misinformation, the amount of false data, the conspiracy theories that they spread about COVID fucked up the COVID response to an immeasurable degree. Let's also remember who was president during COVID. It was Donald Trump. I will acknowledge that the federal government was ill-equipped to deal with the pandemic, which, of course, again, was the Republicans' fault. It was Donald Trump's fault for failing to abide by the proper protocols, even though he had been briefed previously about the potential odds of a pandemic. RFK, in all of these clips, talks about all of the pitfalls in the response to COVID, in the data for COVID, all of the propaganda and the politicization of COVID. Jeffrey Epstein once said, "I hate pedophiles." King Von once said, "End gun violence." All of these things, all of these criticisms of his are directly the result of the Republican Party.
Interventions failed.
No one was masking babies either. One of the clearest pieces of evidence that came out was that children, I forget what age, but newborns, infants, and I believe young toddlers were basically at 0% chance of getting COVID, or like 1% chance of getting COVID. They were the group least impacted by COVID. This is just a hallucination that he's having.
To do anything about the disease itself.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they'd prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials show.
Again, who's politicizing all of this information? The fucking Republican Party, because they can never have a conversation on any subject strictly on merit. Republicans and people who are center-right and right-wing adjacent talked about natural immunity. The reality is, if you got COVID, you did have natural immunity, but it was for significantly less time than you would if you got the COVID vaccine. I think natural immunity only protects you from reinfection for 6 weeks. I'm not too familiar with the science anymore because it's 2025. The fact that we are still talking about COVID is fucking stupid. No one gives a shit about COVID anymore. The vaccine information as well. It was Republicans who said that the vaccine was supposed to prevent transmission. It never said that. The data never said that. The scientists and the researchers who brought forward this information, said you are significantly less likely to be hospitalized and die if you get COVID. With all of that said, the messaging as a whole surrounding COVID was very wishy-washy. It was very flippant, if that's the appropriate word to use there, because this was a very fast-moving pandemic, and the science was bound to change because of the rapidness of this situation. But conservatives did not want to tell you that. They don't want to tell you that science is evolving. The whole process of science is for things to change. But even still, these particular points that he brought up, that RFK brought up, are just fucking, they're just fucking wrong. He's feeding into the Republican propaganda arm because he's an anti-vax charlatan. He's got smoker lungs as a fucking Zin eater. How, like, is that part of his condition? Because I know he sounds like this because he has some sort of vocal condition. Is the breath work part of that too? Because holy fuck.
That there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based.
All these vaccines that we're talking.
Who the fuck else would you expect to write the protocol for how to handle this with schools? You think the people at the CDC are informed enough to know how to do that? Another reason why getting children out of schools was an idea was so that even though they potentially wouldn't, have any horrifying reactions to COVID, they would potentially bring COVID home to their parents and grandparents. The whole idea, the whole approach around COVID was to stop the spread. The whole idea of getting the vaccine, as someone who received the vaccine when I was like 25 years old, was not to protect myself. It was to protect my parents, my grandparents, all of the older people who were around me. RFK is just an anti-science dipshit. He does not believe in the scientific process at all. He does not believe in the medical field at all.
Talking about today are free and accessible to parents today in America who have the freedom to be able to make that choice for their children. Will that be true after your handpicked panel makes their judgments about these vaccines?
I think that parents should be free to...
I know you said that before. I do too.
To make their own choices.
So will they be just as free after these?
I assume they will be.
I will hold you to that, Secretary Kennedy, because this is not a podcast. It is the American people's health that's on the line here.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree with me?
One piece of information that I really love about RFK is he is a persistent liar, but only on the dumbest fucking topics possible. He's been confronted by multiple members of Congress about remarks he's made on a podcast related to science, medicines, vaccines, where he has been caught in a lie. But then he'll go on Fox News and do an interview and tell the anchor, I was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane multiple times, actually. Of all the things to lie about or not to lie about, that
the president deserves a Nobel Prize for Operation Warp Speed?
Yeah, absolutely, Senator. That's phenomenal.
Let me ask you, but you just told Senator Bennett that the COVID vaccine killed more people than COVID.
Wait,
that was a statement.
I did not say that.
Okay, then let me ask, because you also were
Senator, I just want to make clear, I did not say that.
We'll check the record. That's a question of fact. You also said that you were also, as lead attorney for the Children's Health Defense, you engaged in multiple lawsuits attempting to restrict access to the COVID vaccine.
Bro, do these mics not have noise gates? What the fuck are we doing? It's 2025. The U.S. government has existed for 250 years, and yet I have to listen to RFK breathe into the goddamn microphone as Bill Cassidy is chastising him. He's moaning. He's gurgling. He's groaning into the microphone. If there isn't a noise gate, is there not a fucking mute button? Is this not like a broadcasting station where you can press the red button whenever you have to cough or sneeze. What the fuck are we doing? Where, like, instead of sending our tax dollars to Israel, there are infinitely better things that we could do, like improve the fucking audio capacities of the United States government so I don't have to listen to Robert Fortnite Kennedy moan for 45 seconds.
Again, it surprises me that you think so highly of Operation Warp Speed when, as an attorney, you attempted to restrict access.
The president is also
I will say, like, the one objectively good thing that Donald Trump did as president was the COVID vaccine rollout. I'm a staunch Trump hater, but I, however, have two eyes. I got a couple ears. I know when something is good. I know when something is bad. The vaccine, good. The rollout, remarkable. The fact that Donald Trump surrounded himself with anti-vax freakazoids and the fact that he went against the sentiment of his base to push out this vaccine was an objectively good thing.
deserves a Nobel Prize, but our mRNA vaccines that we're working on, the ones that we canceled, which are for upper respiratory infections alone,
You
are
canceled,
those...
canceled $500 million of research because the mRNA technology is about continuing the research to be ready for the next flu, influenza, the next pandemic, and you have to do the research.
I'm happy to give...
There's a further point to this that I wish Senator Cantwell acknowledged was RFK canceled this funding under the guise of preventing vaccine, or under the guise of it stopping vaccines related to upper respiratory infections. But mRNA vaccine technology has limitless uses. It is technology that could potentially act against cancer and HIV and previously uncurable diseases, or diseases previously thought to be uncurable. When you strip away that funding, that is also what you're taking away funding from. You're taking away funding from cancer research and HIV research. You are restricting the development of breakthrough medical technology, not just with upper respiratory infections. And even still, the COVID vaccine was overwhelmingly effective against COVID when it comes to preventing hospitalizations and preventing death. Motherfuckers will then come and talk about all of the side effects. If you look at the data, if you do the research, you'll find that all of these side effects occurred at rates less than they would likely happen, or rates less than they would happen if you got actual COVID. This came up with myocarditis. That was one of the potential side effects of the vaccine. But the data says that you were X times more likely to develop myocarditis if you got actual COVID.
have a detailed discussion with you about it. You're so wrong on your facts.
You're interrupting me, and sir, you're a charlatan. That's what you are. You're the ones who conflate chronic disease with the need for vaccines. The history on vaccines is very clear. This
FYI, charlatan is just a fancy way of calling someone a dipshit. There is an actual word for charlatan. It's really just a fancy con man, someone who propagates misinformation for their own material benefit. Obviously, in a Senate hearing, you can't call RFK a dipshit. But that's what he is. He's a fucking idiot. He has he has a worm in his brain. He admitted to having brain worms. And this guy is the head of the largest agency in the United States.
This is the 20th century. That's how many people had vaccines and had illnesses. This is the 21st century. This is the decrease, 99% down to 100%. This is what was delivered with vaccines, and you don't want to support that.
Do you think the vaccine did anything to prevent additional deaths?
Again, I would like to see the data and talk about the data.
You have had this job for 8 months, and you don't know the data about whether the vaccine saved
and
lives?
that's the problem, is that they didn't have the data. The data by the Biden administration, absolutely dismal.
So who is politicizing?
The data is public information. I don't know if RFK knows this, but virtually every facet of the United States government is available online. It is public source. It is all public knowledge. You may have to dig a little bit to find specific things, but if you're the head of HHS, you should be able to access this data. Newsflash, there is specific data that does this. It was preventable deaths. Again, I don't have the data on hand. It's been 5 years. I'm also not the head of HHS, but all of the data says that X amount of deaths were prevented because of the COVID vaccine. RFK, however, thinks this data is dismal because it doesn't fit his narrative, because he is an anti-science, anti-medicine dipshit.
Saying the Biden administration politicized all the data. Go back to what Senator Cantwell just said.
Fired Dr.
Go to the Trump Surgeon General.
They fired Dr. Grau. They fired all the people who questioned the orthodoxy. They fired Dr. Gruber, Dr. Kraus.
So, Mr. Chairman, the Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't know matter how many Americans died from COVID. Doesn't know if the vaccine helped prevent any deaths. And you are sitting as Secretary of Health and Human Services? How can you be that ignorant?
Their real concern
Remember, Donald Trump was president during COVID. Just remember that.
that safe, proven vaccines like measles, like hepatitis B, and others could be
Joe Biden didn't become president until 1 year after the pandemic almost. What the fuck are we talking about? January of 2021, Biden was inaugurated. COVID had largely, well, maybe not largely, but COVID by that point was not under control, but not as out of control as previously. There was the massive vaccine rollout, multiple boosters. There was some semblance of an idea of how to deal with this, at least in certain places. I'm not talking about Florida where COVID never existed. But Donald Trump was the president during COVID. And RFK is like, the Biden administration politicized all the data.
in jeopardy. And that would put Americans at risk and reverse decades of progress. As we've seen over the last 4 years, the previous administration 4 years, when recommendations became politicized or were swayed by bias, that the public trust can be lost. So what safeguards are in place to ensure decisions are based solely on science and not politics? And how are you going to make sure doctors and parents can count on CDC guidance?
I mean, Senator, I would point this out. Right now, there's only 10% of children are complying with the CDC's recommendation on COVID boosters. Only 15% of healthcare workers. So Americans have lost faith in CDC, and we need.
Who do you think is responsible for that? RFK Jr. is talking about, people not having faith in vaccines. Bro, who the fuck do you think is responsible for that? People like you. People like RFK who spread all of this misinformation about vaccines. How your child is going to have quintuple autism if they get the MMR vaccine. Your child is going to have quintuple autism if they get all of the CDC approved vaccines. Your child is going to have remarkable mutations while in the womb. You're going to give birth to a child with a tail like I had when I was born. And he's flabbergasted that people are skeptical of the medical field in the United States for obvious reasons as well. There are real capitalistic reasons as to why people are skeptical of healthcare in the United States. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to you seeing your doctor does not give a fuck about capitalism or about the insurance company. They give a fuck about treating you and giving you the best medical care possible. But again, the reason why only 10% of children have all of the appropriate vaccines is because of years of rampant vaccine misinformation and propaganda perpetuated by the Republican Party.
To restore that faith, and we're going to do that by telling the truth and not through propaganda, by making them understand that everything that we say is true.
You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
$100.
Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy
No, the
free.
question is everyone who wants it. That was your promise,
No,
Mr.
I didn't.
Kennedy,
No,
not
I never
mine.
promised that I was going to
You didn't
recommend
prom-
products for
Oh,
which
I'm
there is no
sorry.
indication.
When you said.
And I know you've
vaccines
taken
were working for someone,
$855,000 from
I'm not
pharmaceutical
going to take them
companies,
away.
Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that? Because you are the one who said you would not take them away.
There's a big difference, Senator, between established science and the scientific establishment, which has been co-opted by the pharmaceutical
So
industry.
you're telling the American
This guy,
people
he's just so
that the
fucking stupid. I literally cannot believe it. He's not even a convincing propagandist either. The scientific establishment has been co-opted by the pharmaceutical industry, which, by the way, reminder here, RFK does not give a fuck about the pharmaceutical industry. I don't see him out there lobbying about, a nationalization of the pharmaceutical industry so that people aren't charged $3,000 a prescription for life-saving medication. I don't see him out there lobbying for the United States government to be able to negotiate these drug prices with the pharmaceutical companies like every other highly industrialized nation does. He doesn't give a fuck about any of this. He has no problem with the pharmaceutical industry existing. I think his problem is that the pharmaceutical industry isn't killing enough people. They aren't, it's the accessibility that people have to certain prescriptions. The Republican Party hates access to healthcare, which is why the big beautiful bill is so damaging, because it kicks people off of Medicaid. It makes the requirements much stricter. It's going to shut down hundreds of rural hospitals. And then RFK thinks that the researchers and the pharmaceutical companies are in cahoots. Who do you think finances the research for these drugs? It's the fucking taxpayer. It's governments all across the world. If the researchers were going to be biased, they would not be biased to the pharmaceutical industry because they're not financing their research and development.
American Medical Association, representing hundreds of thousands of people, have been co-opted, and that they should not trust their doctors.
And I'm
the
telling
American
you,
Academy of Pediatrics, and by the way, just for the record, every single Republican, I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman, has received PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry.
I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman. Even though I'm a political official, I don't mean to be political. But all of my Republican colleagues are fucking cucked to the pharmaceutical industry. They are all cucked to the healthcare insurance. They are all cucked to the health insurance industry. Put that on the record and make sure you use the exact verbiage that I said.
They all corrupt as well.
And I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the food
Everybody but you, Senator.
What the Trump administration is doing.
You guys are familiar with what the fuck I'm about to say. If you're a Republican in 2025, your whole worldview is everything that the Republicans do is good, everything that the Democrats do is bad. That's what Republican politics boils down to at this point. RFK literally spelled it out. The American Heart Association is bad because I'm not a member of the American Heart Association. Mind you, RFK doesn't know how to do propaganda because he's not a fucking doctor. He's a trained lawyer. He has no experience in healthcare or medicine at all. That's why he's getting put in a pretzel by people who also aren't doctors, except for Bill Cassidy, who is a physician and still confirmed RFK for this fucking seat.
Right now is making it harder for people in this country to get access to mental health care. So don't talk to me about solving the mental health care crisis when you are making it harder. You cut Medicaid, which is the #1 payer for mental health care services in this country. You decimated the agency at Health and Human Services that focuses on mental health and substance abuse. That's what states count on. They're cutting their services to schools as a result of that. So
also, the VA has had a workforce reduction of damn near 50%, and the type of healthcare most affected is mental health care. Throw that in there for the record as well. I understand that that is a separate agency. I don't know if HHS has jurisdiction over that, but it's just indicative of the Trump administration's goal of killing as many Americans as possible, whether that be directly or indirectly.
Several years ago, in a bipartisan way, Congress came together and passed the Safer Communities Act, which made important investments in mental health care and did some important, though small things, to reduce access to guns. What do? You propose cutting that funding.
As HHS secretary, I'm proposing the idea that we give out 9 milligram Zins and Diet Cokes to all K through 12 students in the United States of America. And they have to be 9 milligrams. They can't be 3, they can't be 6. And it has to be the full-size Diet Coke can. I don't want any of those European-sized Diet Coke cans. It's so awesome how just fucked up this country is, that people like RFK are a prominent fixture in government. It's also really fucked up how my camera just refuses to focus. I think RFK is trying to fuck up my broadcast through what is that? Telepathic powers. I'm just going to say it really bluntly. RFK is a real danger to healthcare in the United States of America, which is already the most fucking hazardous type of healthcare on the planet. Not in terms of people who can receive healthcare, but in terms of all of the things that go along with receiving healthcare. Like, oh, your insurance company deciding to bill you $55,000 because you received a treatment, unnecessary treatment that, oh, by the way, they were supposed to cover. And yeah, I'm speaking from experience here. I got not one, but 2 invoices totaling 50 grand for a procedure that I was well within my means of receiving. RFK's okay with that. But God forbid I want to go out and get a goddamn vaccine. He's going to meet me at my pharmacy and fucking tie my feet together and put me in a fucking potato sack. And I'll only be allowed to receive that vaccine if I'm able to untie my feet and pull myself out of that bag. And oh, by the way, difficulty modifier. He's going to cut off both of my fucking hands and sew my mouth shut.